Sons of Bobby McFerrin, don't worry, be happy, who is still alive thanks to Ashuka, who confirmed those reports a couple of months ago. But in the studio, we still have Water and Irrigation Minister, of course, presidential candidate, Charity Ngilu. And questions are coming in hot and nice. And question comes in and says, you and other Kamba leaders met the Prime Minister about 2 months ago, and you quoted as saying you're ready to work with the Prime Minister. Does this mean you're going to break that, or is it maybe in future there'll be a coalition, so to speak?
Thanks so much. First and foremost, we are in a coalition government. I'm still the minister in charge of water and irrigation, and therefore in the government we are all working together. However, I have come up with my very clear issues that are very pertinent, not only to me, but to really 56% of Kenyans who live below poverty line. That is about those people who cannot access and cannot get about 80 shillings in a day. And they have no food, they have no water, they have no health care, they are not provided with health care. These people have no way of living and they have no jobs. And therefore I've come up like I've done before when I was a presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party in 1997. I really think these are the issues that need to be attended to by any leader who really wants to help Kenyans out of problems. And here I'm saying the issues are 5. I've talked about food and water. I've talked about illiteracy in this country. I've talked about, therefore, education. I've talked about healthcare. I've talked about women empowerment and the wealth creation. And I already said how we can create wealth in this country. We are not a poor nation, actually. We have plenty of resources. We need to exploit them, and we need to ensure that these resources are actually, they go to the right people. Resources in this country are so unequitably distributed to the extent that you find those rich people in this country are truly rich and the poor are truly poor. We are not only saying that the rich do not get rich, but we are saying let's help the poor get out of poverty. And it is doable. And I already said, looking at the economic survey, the amount of jobs that we export out of this country, whether we are importing, and I said, maize, we are importing maize, rice, we actually import to a tune of 1.3 trillion goods that we bring in and services. We export only goods worth 482 billion, which leaves a deficit of 831 billion. These are the things that we should be producing here. Why should we import mitumba in a country that should be growing cotton and having our own textile companies that actually export instead of importing? We are the ones, the leadership is the one that is impoverishing Kenyans, I said. Why are we importing sugar when we have Mumias, Awendo, Soni, Ramisi, and all these places where we should grow our sugar? And then we subject our people to buying sugar at 120 shillings per kilo. That sugar that is coming from Brazil, and the sugar that is coming from Mumias is the same cost. For what reason? Brazil 10,000 kilometers, Mumias 500 kilometers. Look at the difference. Are you telling me the cost of transport is the same? Somebody's cheating us. Somebody's taking the difference.
Well, obviously, the big elephant in the room here, based on the example that you've given, is obviously corruption, which is the huge overriding sort of theme that we have here. Obviously, if sugar from Brazil is ending up somehow being cheaper, there's obviously somebody who has benefited some way. What plans do you have about tackling corruption, which is so deeply rooted in our society?
First of all, we need to clean up and look at what we are producing. First of all, we need to engage the farmers themselves so that they know all of us have a duty. And that the people who are actually putting sugar and allowing sugar to come in the country will need to be asked, what is it that you bring in sugar in the country when we can actually encourage our own farmers? And even when I talk to some of the farmers, they're saying to me, they are the poorest. By the way, sugar farmers are the poorest in this country. Because whenever they produce their sugar, they buy sugar on bulk, and they go to their farms and they say, give us the farms, we are going to give you all the production, all what you need for production. That is the fertilizer, that is this and the other. By the time they pay those who have given them fertilizers and the things that they need to grow sugar, you find that they'll be getting maybe, I hear, 4 shillings and 60 cents per kilometer, per kilo. Now, if you get 4 shillings and 60 cents per kilo as a farmer, what have you gotten, really, for all the work that you have done? So these are things that need to be cleaned out, just to ensure that the farmers get what they must get, and also those who are actually milling the sugar also get what they need to get. But we have got to stop some of, we are crazy. We really want always to get what is imported and not what we are able to grow ourselves.
Sorry, Maheshmiwa, but I think the pertinent question that Shuka has asked is really around corruption.
Yes.
And we can't avoid it, no matter which way we look. I think we've just been beaten, in quotes, by Uganda to one of the top most corrupt countries in the world. And in all fairness, to ask the people who are being corrupt what they are thinking about is not strong enough. Primarily because, with the issue of sugar, as you have taken it, the importers or the people who are involved in what we call the sugar scams today are, or are alleged to be, very powerful people in this country.
Yes.
On the issue of corruption specifically, could you address us on what your plan and your plan for getting round that particular issue in this country is?
Yes, I will. I'll tell you. I remember vividly and very clearly in 2003, when we got into government, every Kenyan knew that we were going to deal with the corruption, and that was the end of corruption.
Exactly.
and the people were ready, and they came in and said, this is it. Police officers knew they would not get any bribe on our roads. People knew they would not give. But soon after, we got into the same habit, that we did not continue on that path. And you know, this really was very painful to some of us who really had fought so hard to bring this change that we brought in 2003. We still have that will, let me tell you. And I know Kenyans will fight corruption themselves. Let me give you a good example. Look at the menace we have on our roads with the transport on our roads. What did late Honorable Michuki do? He said that there are not going to be overlaps, there are not going to be accidents, there are not going to be over. You don't carry more people than you should carry in your car. And people said, yes, this is what we were waiting for. You know, the Matatu said will not even work. People said, don't work. For a whole week, people decided they were going to walk. You know, once you show people this is the direction, and you are firm on it, people just follow what you're saying. We have not showed people that this is what we want to do. A person leading this country can tell that there is something wrong that is happening here. And it says this must stop, and it will stop. Believe you me, once you're in power and you say this must stop and ask people to help you, it will stop. It will stop.
It's never been a feature that has been common with our politicians, but then again, we shall see if it stops. When we come back, Ian Bugwa says we need to be realistic and to take a magician to change all those things. And he would like to know what have you done in your various dockets for him to trust you. More on that in a couple of minutes right here on your best mix of music.